Hi there, I'm Vincent Boss and I provide dating and self-improvement advice. And in today's podcast, we're going to be discussing why your ex will miss you. I provide audio coaching for breakup recovery, trying to get an ex back, attracting someone new, and life coaching. Visit www.dateme.tips for more details. Please check your spam and junk folders if you are expecting an email from me. Check out my socials for extra content. The links are in the description. So now let's get back into today's podcast, and today we are discussing why your ex will miss you. So if you have been dumped and want to try to get your ex back, you will want to know if, when and how your ex might miss you. In today's podcast, I'll be discussing 3 reasons why your ex will miss you. So let's get straight into this, and point number 1 is emotional entanglement. So whether you like it or not, or more importantly, whether your ex likes it or not, you and them have emotional entanglement. What this means is that you have lived your life together for a sustained period of time, if you were to look back at least and say that you had a long-lasting, loving relationship, and therefore you will always be part of their life story, and they will always be part of yours. Even if sadly you were never to speak again, I can almost guarantee that at 100 years of age, you would still remember the relationship that you are now no longer part of, and so would your ex. If we consider what a long-term loving relationship means, we can therefore understand the importance, the significance, and the rarity, and therefore we will never forget it happened. We won't just never forget, but we will always remember, and there is a difference here. We're not just speaking about something that you might casually remember once in a blue moon. We're speaking about something that the triggers will likely come thick and fast for many years to come, and even in decades beyond. You will still have triggers, you will still have memories, you will still have lots of things which make you think of your ex, and vice versa. Perhaps you got married, perhaps you live together, maybe you have children with one another. This is a situation that could be very complex, and certainly the entanglement between you is not something which is easily removed or even really possible to remove, and therefore there is always possibility for your ex to miss you. Because whilst there are connections, and although they might be somewhat obvious, like you have children together, maybe there is a marriage that you will never forget, or perhaps you live together and now you're having to sell a house, all of those things sound complicated, sound stressful, sound upsetting, but they also create lots of possibilities of your ex-dumper to miss you in the future, because those triggers, those things you shared, are not going to disappear. There is every opportunity for your ex to think about you during a day where they're not feeling so good and they start to reminisce about the past. Yes, right now things aren't great. Yes, we're talking theoretically about you getting a divorce or maybe having to sell a house. Perhaps you never actually got that far or deep in your relationship, but you were together for a number of months, and those months you shared lots and lots of memories. These are the things that you and your ex will think back upon when those opportunities arise for your mind to wander. Nobody can escape their past in the way of just pretending it never happened. We all have to have a moment where we look into that mirror metaphorically and consider, have I made the right choices in my life? Now, if you are a dumper, this would also connect with the fact of you questioning whether or not you made the right decision in ending your relationship with your dumpee, who is likely you listening right now. So if you are a dumpee listening, your ex-dumper will come to that crossroads where they do have to consider, did I make the right choice? I went left, but could I and should I have gone right? And vice versa. Those types of things are going to cross their mind. I'm sure you can think of examples in your own life where you've come to that crossroads, where you have to think, did I make the right choice? Now, it might not be about a romantic relationship, but you will think about those moments, I'm absolutely sure, and therefore your ex-dumper will have that going on as well. And this is where the whole missing you concept comes into play. They can't avoid the possibility of thinking about you, whether or not you was deeply entrenched in each other's lives, or maybe the entanglement wasn't quite as deep, but certainly something valuable. But if it wasn't, you wouldn't be listening to today's podcast. If this relationship meant absolutely nothing, then you wouldn't be listening. The fact it meant something to you very much likely means it also meant something to them, even if they are the one right now who sadly decided to end the connection. We all live in the moment, we speak in the moment, we feel in the moment. And if your ex-dumper ended your relationship, sadly that meant that during that moment in time, they were feeling a low level of romantic emotional attraction for you. But it doesn't mean this is how they will feel in the future. Now, I'm not guaranteeing you'll get your ex back, but I'm certainly saying it's possible this level of attraction can regrow. And as a dumpee, as long as you live your life the right way, as long as you do everything you can to increase the chance of them regrowing attraction for you in their mind, then this is where the opportunity for them to miss you when they hit that crossroads, when they hit that moment where they can't deny their thoughts any further, and they have to consider, by looking in that metaphorical mirror, if you do everything right on your side, then there is every chance that your ex-dumper will start to miss you. Maybe it's not enough to want to reconnect, but often they do reconsider that position and think, you know what, my life isn't going that great right now. What I had with my dumpee wasn't all bad. In fact, there were many great moments that we shared together. Perhaps I could reconsider this decision. And if you as a dumpee have done everything you can to increase the chance of them thinking of you positively, then this is where, point number one, your ex could miss you. So now let's get into point number 2 and the second point of today's podcast. Please like this video if you're watching on YouTube and subscribe to the channel. And point number 2 is short story. So now I just want to tell you a short story which really showcases another reason of why your ex will miss you. So in a quiet meadow, there lived a cheerful daisy named Daisy. Why not? Let's call Daisy Daisy. And a playful bee named Buzz. Now every day, Buzz would visit Daisy, enjoying her sweet nectar and the warmth of her bright petals. Now Daisy loved Buzz's visits, feeling happy and alive whenever he was around. Now one day, Buzz decided he wanted to explore other flowers in the meadow. He told Daisy that he needed a change and flew off to find new adventures. Daisy felt sad but continued to bloom brightly, knowing she had to keep growing even without Buzz. Buzz buzzed around the meadow, visiting many beautiful flowers. Each flower had something special, but none made Buzz feel as happy and content as Daisy did. He started to miss the way Daisy's petals would gently sway in the breeze and how her sweet nectar always tasted just right. As the days passed, Buzz realised that the other flowers, no matter how pretty, couldn't replace the connection he had with Daisy. He missed her more and more, understanding how special she was to him. One sunny afternoon, Buzz decided to fly back to Daisy. When he returned, he saw her standing tall and bright, even more beautiful than before. Daisy welcomed him back with open petals, happy to see her old love again. Buzz landed on Daisy, feeling the warmth and comfort he'd missed so much. He apologised for leaving and promised to stay close from now on. Daisy smiled and forgave him, glad to have him back. The other flowers and insects in the meadow noticed their reunion and learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes it takes exploring new places to realise the true value of what we already have. From that day on, Buzz visited Daisy every day, appreciating her even more. Their bond grew stronger and they lived happily in their peaceful meadow. Now I hope you like that story, I hope you like the playful angle I wanted to go with it, but the point is absolutely valid, and that is sometimes somebody will have to go and explore life before they truly realise what they've lost and what they've left behind. Now you might listen to that and think, well, I don't want to be somebody's second option. If someone doesn't want to be with me, I don't want them to come back to me if they decide that I'm actually better than what's out there. But please, don't think of it like that. Don't think of it as being a plan B. Instead, think of it as you beating all of the other competition. And even though your ex-dumper may or may not come back to you, it is really important that you do grow, just as we described in that story. You need to be ready for whatever is coming. Whether your ex comes back to you, whether they don't, it doesn't matter, because you can find someone even better than your ex, even if they don't decide to reconnect with you. But we're just talking about if it's down to them, but it's not. it's down to you as well. If they do want to come back to you, it's up to you if you accept them. And this is why we must always remember that life is a value exchange. Everything in life is a value exchange. If you want to buy something from a shop, you need to give money. If you don't give money, you can't have the item in the shop. And guess what? You won't want to buy the item in the shop unless you feel its value. Everything in life is a value exchange. And if you don't feel that what your ex-bedumper is going to suggest that you get back together is worthwhile to you, you certainly don't have to accept it. Just because they dumped you and then changed their mind, it doesn't mean you have to jump to attention and say, yes, I'm ready, I want to get back with you. No, you need to consider whether or not this is a value exchange you want to be involved in. Remember, you're sadly right now a single person. You don't want to be a single person, but it does have some power. And the power is you can make the choices that you want to make. And if somebody leaves you, you don't have to take them back. You need to consider whether it's the right option for you if they decide they've made a mistake. So if your ex-bedumper does contact you, yes, that can be great. Yes, see how it goes, but don't feel that you owe them anything. You don't. They are single, but so are you. And as two single people, you can make the choice about what you want to do going forward. But rest assured, if your ex-bedumper does go out into the wide world, the likelihood is they're not going to find someone as great as yourself. And the reason I say this is because you've had a long-lasting loving relationship. Again, if you hadn't, you won't be listening to today's podcast. So it's going to be very hard indeed for them to find anything which matches up to the experiences that you had together, even though, sadly, it didn't work out initially. If you grow as a person, if they grow as a person, there is every chance that in the future, your new relationship together could be built on very strong foundations. Now, if you would like advice and support about how to try and increase the chance of one day getting your ex back, then you may want to consider my audio coaching service, where me and you can speak one-on-one about your unique specific situation. Go to my website www.dateme.tips for more information about how I can become your coach and your teammate via my audio coaching service. Talking about your feelings can also improve your mental health. It helps prevent the buildup of negative emotions, which can lead to stress, anxiety, depression, and even physical health issues. Speak your heart to free your mind. So now let's get into point number 3 and the final point of today's podcast about why your ex will miss you. And point number 3 is long-term connections are hard to find. Now this is a continuation in some respects to point number 2. It's really important to recognize that long-term connections are very hard to find. It's not easy to find somebody long-term compatible. You can't walk down the street, find a random person, say hi, ask them out on a date, and even if they were to accept that very random request, you can't expect them to want to be in a long-term relationship with you, and you shouldn't really be expecting that you're compatible anyway. The reason is, it's very, very hard. You could go on dates for many, many months with many, many people and sadly not find anybody that you feel long-term compatible with. Now that's not because you're necessarily doing anything wrong, and it's not because necessarily they're doing anything wrong. It's just because it's not easy to find. And the fact that you and your former partner were together in a long-lasting loving relationship at one time shows you have a connection, a link, a bond, which is very rare indeed to discover. I always suggest that anybody who's gone through a breakup will find it very difficult to find a forever partner within a year or so post-breakup. That's dumper and dumpee. And this is because it's so difficult, even if you were getting straight back out there, to find someone who really clicks with you and vice versa. Any connection made within a year or so is likely to be a rebound relationship which burns out almost as quickly as it began. And therefore, if you find out that your ex-bedumper is dating someone new, I would try and stay as relaxed as possible because it's not likely to last forevermore. Similarly, if you decide to get out into the dating world, don't beat yourself up if your first few dates don't really go as you hoped. Enjoy the experience as best you can, but recognise it's tough to find that long-term compatibility. And this is why I believe your ex will miss you, because if they do decide they want to get out into the dating world, they're going to be finding it very difficult indeed to find that long-term compatible partner. Now in point number 2, we told a short story about how the character within it did start to miss their former partner when they went out into the world and didn't find anybody quote-unquote better. But this and point number 3 is a more analytical look at that discovery. Because if you were to date someone new every week of the year, you would still probably find it tough to find that right person. Because it's not just about finding the right person for you in a compatibility sense. It's also about an emotional sense and where you are right now in that moment. And maybe you do meet someone who you could be compatible with, but you can't be compatible with them right now, or maybe the other way around is applicable. But it is about right moment, right place, right time. It's not just about do you match on paper, it matters about the timing of your meeting and discovery. So as we can see, it is tough to find a long-term compatible partner, not just because they might not look as nice, sound as nice, not as many hobbies, interests that you share, but also because the emotional differences on the timeline about where you're at and where they are at. And when your expert-dumper finds how hard it actually is out there in the dating world, they are more likely to look back at a relationship that they once had, i.e. the one with you, miss the moments you shared together, and really start to feel that possibly they've made a mistake. And that is why your ex will miss you. If you believe that this podcast has helped you, then please consider buying me a coffee. The link to do so is in the description.